All right, welcome to KMS Brews number 13. We got a special new guest today, Steve, you're live to tape. What's going on?
What's going on, guys?
Not much. Kirk's desk, hanging out. Shank, Menifang, Kim Jong-un. I'm very excited. So, boys, what are we drinking tonight? I'm going to end with Steve because, he's the new guy. We got a couple of questions. So, Kim, what do you got?
I am doing Fleeting Moment by Treehouse. I love this stout. I got it a couple weeks ago. It's a milk stout with coffee, chocolate, maple syrup. But what's different from this than like the Eternity is it has two types of cinnamon. It has Vietnamese cinnamon and Ceylon cinnamon. If I'm saying that right.
Oh. No way. Two cinnamon?
It's very good.
Wow.
It's my favorite.
That Nate knows what he's doing. Damn. So I'm just going to jump to myself. I'm doing a long live pastry stout, Jenny Grahams. It's their Teddy Graham version. It's vanilla and graham cracker. It's fucking awesome. This rivals Treehouse. Might have to get you one. Yeah, this is fucking awesome. I just picked it up this afternoon. It's the scent, like his nose. I don't know what the fuck he does, but at 11%, just so smooth. Ton of vanilla. I get that graham cracker feel in the mouth. It's almost a little grainy, but not offensive or anything like that. So good, so good. I recommend Long Live all the time. Shank, what do you got, man?
So I have a Kill Your Idols Crantastic from Idle Hands. So fruited sour with some cranberry, cherry, and a little bit of grape must. So you get nice tartness from the cranberry, not over the top, but nice sour, also a little festive. Cranberry is perfect for this time of year.
Fuck yeah, that sounds delicious. What about you, Dustin?
Hold on. I have a question.
Oh, sorry, sir. Please, after you.
How was that? Is that a Kettle Sour?
Yeah. So Kettle Sour, a little bit of lactose added in. So if you have a dairy allergy, it may not be great for you, but it balances it out nicely. Not super sour. Really good balance with it.
Nice, good. I am going with Jessup Farm Barrel House Weiss with Age.
Fort Collins.
That's right. So my buddy, his parents live out there, so he drove out there this summer and came home and dropped me off a case of mixed beers from out there.
Nice.
And so great. So this is a white ale, a Weiss beer that is aged in Vapor Distillery, which is out of Boulder. They're Ginsky barrels. So their Ginsky is their gin that's aged in 2 years of oak barrels. So it's great. It's you got the Weiss beer, but it's got a lot of gin, juniper on it, it is a very, very nice beer.
Is that are they still 100% barrel aged brewery?
I can't say 100%, but it sounds like it. Everything that he got me was barrel aged. When I went on the website, it looked like it was mainly all barrel aged. Yeah.
Nice.
And still with your lovely tea crew. I always love your glassware. It's my favorite part of the show. Thank you, sir. So, Steve, first time on the show, and welcome. So tell us, what beer are you drinking? What got you into craft? And then we'll get you into some more stuff.
Well, I'm drinking one of my favorite beers. Shout out to the desk right there. Some Ohio ties. So this is
Nice.
Fathead's Headhunter. It's their double IPA, 7.5%, 80 IBUs, West Coast. One of the best IPAs I've ever had. My in-laws are out in Ohio, so whenever we see them, they always bring me a couple 6-packs of Headhunter. Just like super drinkable, scary drinkable. That's why I have a backup beer here too. But just a delicious IPA. It's won too many awards that actually count. So one of the best beers out there. So what got me into beer, or the beer that got me into craft, I was actually in college and I had a Long Trail Ale. And I remember being like, wow, this is what like beer can taste like this. Because I at that point I was used to just drinking like trash, Budweiser and crap like that. And I didn't really like it. So I think I finally went to the bar and I was like, we're going to order something different. Got a Long Trail Ale. And I was like, this doesn't taste like beer. So that kind of set me off. started drinking Long Trail and Harpoon, and this was good 12, 13 years ago. I kind of went from there. So I started home brewing probably like 10 years ago. And back in 2015, I actually moved to Colorado to start working for a brewery. So that's kind of how I started. I kind of went from my background is actually journalism, and then I went to brewing. So I went from I worked for a newspaper, which was like the worst job you could possibly have, to working for a brewery, which was like the best job you could possibly have. So now I brew beer in New Hampshire. So I'm kind of back home, and it's my day-to-day life is brewing beer. So
that is, I think, fucking sick. I mean, I think everybody would love to do that. Yeah, no, we would all love to do that. I mean, you watch these people.
I tell you what, I sold 95% of my stuff. I moved to Colorado. I sold everything I had, and whatever I had left was put into a U-Haul. Went to Colorado, didn't have a job lined up. I applied to like 40-something breweries, and I only got one interview, and it was for a 15-hour-week taproom job, and it was the hardest interview of my life. And then they gave me a second interview, which was even harder, and I finally got it. And it was a 15-hour-week job to start, and then 9 months later, I was moving back to brew in New Hampshire. So,
oh shit! I mean, as a
what was that?
Let's say any reason why Colorado?
So my buddy, one of my good friends, he and his girlfriend at the time were moving out to Colorado because she was going to do her master's at Colorado State. And so he just asked me and my ex, he's like, hey, you guys want to go with us? And I was in a super funk at the time. So we just said, sure, let's just do something different. Went to Colorado, and I just knew, I was like, okay, well, now's the time to get into the industry because I'm going to a place with so many breweries. I have to be able to get into this industry somehow. Because if you remember, New Hampshire at that time maybe had like 13, 14, 15 breweries, and now we have 80 something. And that's how much has changed in the last 5-6 years, which is kind of crazy. So it just got me foot in the door. And I did everything out there at the brewery I worked at. I did tap room, and then I was doing marketing and sales and social media and delivering beer, and started helping on the production side of things. And it was the best thing that I possibly could have done. But everybody thought it was crazy. When I did it, everybody was like, you're nuts. So, but you know what? You gotta take some chances every once in a while, and that one fortunately paid off.
I'm going to geek out for a second because I brew beer. So I just want to know, like, how long did you brew before you went to Colorado? And what type of system were you using?
Probably like 3 or 4 years I was brewing. I started with brewing a bag, which was a great way to like really get your flavor without buying all the equipment, and being able to adjust your flavor, not just buying extract. And then I ended up buying like a 5-gallon or a 10-gallon igloo cooler, and figuring it out as a mash tun. I made like ended up getting like a turkey fryer and was boiling on that.
Yep.
I'll be honest, I tell everybody, I made a lot of terrible beer. I entered a couple beers into a Boston homebrew competition, and I did a rye IPA that actually scored really, really well. And then I entered a porter that was like undrinkable. We made a lot of bad stuff, and I tell everybody, like, it's actually easier to brew professionally because it's bigger, and there's a lot of risk there in terms of selling it to the public. But like a lot of stuff's automated, and cleaning is easier, and sanitation is easier. Yep. So as long as you learn the steps in the system and how to improve that system, in a lot of ways, it's way easier than home brewing. But part of me actually kind of misses home brewing, which is kind of funny, but it's true. So
I still think if we had a Kirk Minahan show beer, I think that could sell extremely well.
Do it.
For the, I just like, we'll buy everything. We'll buy anything. I mean, the troll socks, unfortunately, I don't think sold as many as they probably hoped. I have all of them.
They sent me 2 free pair, just trying to get rid of them. So
I wish we had somebody that worked at a brewery that could make a Kirk. I mean, because I made one on a 10-gallon system, and I just drank it. But
none of us had that. But
I will say I was talking.
I couldn't have shipped it out. I could not have shipped that out.
I was talking to Steve in this fall, winter last year. Barstool Pond Hockey was up in New Hampshire, and I was actually talking to him to see if we could potentially do a live show at my brewery. and we just didn't have the space, and they never ended up coming anyway. So I think if we were to do something like that or some sort of meetup, I think we could totally do some sort of beer and do something for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I brewed a beer. I brewed Mama Geary's Sticky Stout. It was good. It was definitely worth. But I bottled it, and I used I have like a counter filler with CO2.
Yep.
And I had it in a bottle for 5 days. It just did not taste the same. So I'm not sending shit out unless you're coming to my house. I mean, Desk, you're always welcome. I'll brew a beer and you can come down.
There we go.
We should be there. We should have a KMS brew day.
We've talked about it forever.
That'd be a lot of beer consumed, though.
Yeah, we need some
what type of beer though would it be for KMS? Like what type of beer would capture like the community and Kirk and Steve and
we'd have to go something light and just easy to drink. I mean, just for everybody. But I mean, because I mean the Sticky Stout, was a little much. I mean, it was at like 9% or whatever it was. So I would say like a cream ale would be cool, and like hop it a little bit.
Also very appropriate. I think that
the cream.
Kevin
would be all into
the best call of
whatever you want to call it.
Year this week.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, his call, and it was just it was like, Kirk called him and said, "Hey, this is what we need." It's like, "Hey, we got somebody on the line." It's like the only caller.
I had no idea that was him until Twitter.
Oh, really?
I
mean, he said cream and like all that shit.
Yeah, but
they said just Ducky.
Yeah, I said that call was just Ducky.
That's what I figured it out. Yeah.
Good giveaway, man. Yeah, I have to re-listen to that whole episode because it was so good.
Oh, it was great.
Very good, very good. So so let's move on. So a lot of us, love to imbibe daily. I know I enjoy a beer or two after work. Steve Your-Live-to-Tape just recently came on because he came off of 75 days without beer. And let me tell you that part of his career is actually brewing beer.
Yeah.
So to not drink, I mean, I know you said you might have tasted some and shit like that, but not to have an actual pint for 75 days, that's quite the feat when you're a big craft beer guy. So
yeah,
was
this was my second year doing it. I did it last year. The last 2 years I've done it like early September for 2.5 months. I did it last year because we have this actually really cool event up in New Hampshire called the New England Homebrewers Jamboree. It's been going on for 22, 23 years now. This was the first year it was actually canceled, but it is, I call it the Woodstock of beer. It's like 3 days of just shenanigans. And so I've been going for 4 or 5 years now, and you feel disgusting by the end of it. But it's amazing. It's the best event of the year. So last year I was like, you know what, we're going to do this jamboree. And then Monday we're going to just call it quits for a while. 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, it's tough. But as soon as you hit that mark, it's like, it starts getting easier. So as soon as you get to that like 3 week period, you're like, okay, 75 days, like I'm going to do it. I'm going to get there. And considering I did it last year, this year was that much easier. Like I just knew I was going to be able to do it. At work, like I have to sample, I have to do quality control. So I limit everything to like an ounce or two, and kind of go from there. But yeah, no full pints, no spirits, no nothing for 75 days. And actually one of the great things that it does is in my job, I'm obviously surrounded by beer. I have meetings that you drink beer. I go on the road and I see buddies in the industry. We drink beer and everything has beer in it. So it's hard to avoid it, but when you do it for 75 days, your palate refreshes. So basically the second half of those 75 days and then back drinking now, like my palate is so much better. So whenever I drink something, like I can pick up on the nuances of flavors and stuff now, which is really nice. It's going to be lost in probably like a week.
It's kind of like sex, then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Feel like you want it? Yeah, it comes back and you're so excited and it just goes right.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
So you're on day what, 175 of that, or
no comment.
Desk is gonna feel a lot the next time. So yeah, you guys, anyone want to expound on that? I know Shank. We've talked a little bit about it before. What do you think?
I give you so much credit for being able to do that because I have such a hard time. It borderlines on alcoholism, but I just don't want to, address that, because that's a whole new set of issues. But no, I mean, I try and go 2 or 3 days during the week, and even then I have a tough time. So that's really impressive, just being around beer all the time, to just be able to say, nope, I'm not going to drink. That's really impressive.
Like I said, the first 2 weeks are like the toughest.
Yeah.
As soon as you get past that, it's sort of easy. But like even right now, so I ended just before Thanksgiving, because like you got to drink on Thanksgiving. So I made sure to time that appropriately.
There you go.
But even now, it's like if I get home tomorrow night, or if I get done work tomorrow, what am I going to do? Probably going to have a pint. And if I think to myself, yeah, you're not going to have a pint tomorrow, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound like a good idea. Like I will drink a pint. Yeah. Now I'm like, 1 day off, I can't do that. But I just did 75. So
I don't get how you can do 75. Every other year, I give up liquor. I give up drinking every other year for Lent. I'm not religious, but I said, I do it for reasons. I like that day 40.
And not reasons?
And not reasons. But that after 40 days, like I go to a lot of business dinners, and I'm the only one not drinking. Or like events and things like it sucks, and it's so hard. Like I cannot believe that you do 75, because I literally at 40 days, I'm like begging myself, like running out to the liquor store to get a bourbon or wine or beer or something, just inside my system, because it's so hard. And I agree with you. After 2 weeks, it gets easier.
Yeah,
but it's not. I mean, it's still extremely hard. Like up to the 40 days of Lent.
I'll say this too. I'm a hermit for 75 days. Like we don't, like me and my fiance, we don't go to dinner. We very rarely see friends. It's literally like focus on 75 days of doing something that isn't drinking, because like all my friends either work at breweries or love to drink a lot of beer. So it's like,
oh yeah,
I'll tell my best friend, like, yeah, I'll see you in 60 days, buddy. Like, and then we'll drink beers then. But it's not easy. But yeah, you get over that hump, it starts getting better, and then the floodgates open. So
I'd say I'll have usually 1 to 2 beers a night, or a drink a night, and so I don't feel like that's a problem. Hopefully it's not, but I've been doing that since I was 19, when I lived in California, and so of course there was a time I was actually when I was trying to find myself, and I became Muslim. And somewhat Muslim. And I had my prayer rug. We talked about this briefly. I had my prayer rug and stuff, and I would do my prayers 3 times a day. And I was living in a hotel room in the middle of the winter in Old Orchard Beach, Maine. And I went like 40 days without drinking alcohol. I would have cranberry juice. It was very it'd be the middle of the winter. It'd be very, very difficult, but it was like the hardest thing to do, and I eventually gave up. I changed my name. I was Ashfaq Abdul Wahad for a little bit there. It was a good time, but I could never. I try to go like I won't drink tonight. But I have a day at work. I'm like, God, there's no reason not to have 1 beer tonight and just chill out a little bit. So I'm not having 20 a night by any means. So I don't know, but I think it would be interesting to do that. I think that I wonder how different I would feel health-wise.
Sure.
You feel good. You feel pretty good. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, I don't know. I think there are worse things for you than beer. But if you go without alcohol in your system for 2.5 months, yeah, it's almost like your body changes a little bit. But it's not as good as beer tastes. So we just keep drinking.
I would say if you go out without sex that long, it's pretty bad too. So. Yeah, you got to try to find it.
Do both of them.
So Steve, a question. You talked about that homebrew jamboree.
Yeah.
So a couple of buddies of mine, I never went. Troy City Brewing. I don't know if you remember them when they were up there. It was the last couple of years.
What was the name?
Troy City Brewing.
Troy City? No.
TCB. Okay. No. They were up there. They always fucking talked about it. I never went with them, but they were always there.
I tell everybody, whether you're a home brewer or not, or you're in the beer industry like professionally, or you just like beer, like it's the best beer event of the year, and it's all goes to Make-A-Wish, New Hampshire. I think 2 years, our last jamboree, we raised like $12,000 or $13,000 for Make-A-Wish, and they've been doing that for 20 something years now. And it's literally like you get there. I know a lot of guys that like the homebrew guys that will get there like Tuesday. And it's at a campground. and it's a $20 donation. Like if you just walk in the door Saturday, you buy a glass from a homebrew club, and then some homebrew clubs have like 120 taps. Like, so like you might go to one, like one of my favorites is the Rhode Island Brew Society, Ribs. Love Ribs. Super good guys, make great beer. They usually have like 12, 15 taps, but they have a lot of cool, innovative, fun stuff. And a lot of like, you'll have a lot of beer that sucks and you just pour it on the ground or pour it into a bucket. But you have some amazing stuff too. I had one of the best beers I've ever had was actually at the Homebrewers Festival, and it was a Utopia's clone that everybody in that club brewed a 5-gallon batch and put it into a barrel. And it was incredible beer, and I just kept going back for it. And I shouldn't have, because I was an early night at that point when you drink Utopia's clone. But yeah, if you just enjoy beer, it's worth it. You get there Thursday or Friday night, you camp out all weekend long. There's no start date. There's no end date. It's just Sunday's The Walking Dead. Everyone's packing up and leaving. But Friday, Saturday night is like bonfires and music and a big cookout. And yeah, it brings hundreds and hundreds of people every year. So it's a blast. I recommend it to anyone who just likes beer.
So it's literally the gathering of the Juggalos, but for beer.
Yeah. It's like Burning Man, but for homebrew. When I first started going, my boss made me go. He's like, you got to go to this thing. And I was like, I don't know. I just had to work or something. I was like, I don't really want to go. And then I was there for 5 minutes and I was like, I'm never going to miss this event ever again. Like there's no reason to miss it. So yeah, it's a blast. And even if you're not hooked up with a homebrew club, it's literally like this group right here, just times it by 800 people. Everyone just loves beer, loves talking about beer, loves drinking beer. So
have you
go Desk, go.
Switching subjects a little bit. Have you been to Tamworth Distilling in there in New Hampshire?
Oh yeah.
And have you ever had I think we mentioned this at some point, maybe off air, about the Beaver Caster whiskey?
I haven't had it, but Tamworth is actually pretty close to me. Great people that work there, great distillers. They make a great product. And I actually, my brewery, I just emptied a Tamworth barrel. It was an apple brandy barrel that I put a 10.5% imperial stout into in January. So we have a pretty good relationship with those guys. Great people. I didn't have that specific, but they make a lot of great stuff. Very under the radar.
Yeah, I mean that just sounds so interesting. I mean, I grew up in a trapping and hunting background when I was a kid, and so we'd have like the beaver caster oil and scents that we would have for when we would trap, and to put that into a whiskey sounds very intriguing. So if you come across that.
Well, I actually have to go there and return the barrel to them. So when I return that barrel, which I think is this week, I'll see if they have any hiding in the back.
Yeah, nice.
Those guys are kind of cool too, because it's the guy who started Hendrix and Sailor Jerry started Tamworth. And what I was told was he started it in Tamworth because the water is unfrackable, or the land is unfrackable, and you can't affect the water at all. And so that was kind of like the thing he was like prides the distillery on, is the quality of water, which the water is incredible right there. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah, very cool. So one of the things we wanted to talk about is labels on beer. So I just kind of brought one up on my phone, and I'll get this up here. So Cinnamon Roast Crunch. Okay, that is clearly, I mean, just imposing on Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Who's that by? What brewery?
This one is Noble Ale Works. So actually, I know that. I went to them. They're in Ohio. They're in Cincinnati. Noble?
Nope.
I think so.
Nope.
Yeah.
I know Noble Beast in Cleveland.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I was thinking about.
Oh, is that it is? Yep.
Yeah. I was thinking about Noble Beast. Because I went down, I drove to Indiana. And, so, no, I'm not sure what Noble Ale, but stuff like that. I mean, or even we were talking earlier, Keystone came out with something. Oh, there we go. Whoa, Cap'n. So, I mean, you're working in a brewery. Can you come up with anything like, Lucky Farms instead of Lucky Charms and have like hops on there? So, I mean, it doesn't offend me at all, but what do you guys think? Shank, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Yeah. So I find a lot of breweries rely more on the artwork than the quality of the beer itself. So one that comes to mind, actually up in New Hampshire, is Pipe Dream. So they do a lot of labels that have like scantily clad women on it, and just like very, they'll have a picture of a woman in a thong with like a lipstick on her ass or something, and it's like
clown shoes. Clown shoes has been like that. Clown shoes has been like that in the past.
Yeah.
I remember.
So, a lot of places will rely on stuff like that. And it's like, if it helps sell, I guess that's great. But, if you just focus on the quality of the beer, it might actually help even more. Because people will buy it, they'll try it, and then, they move on. So there's a lot of places. Another one. So you guys are talking about the cereal one. I just saw one today that is like do you guys remember the Uncrustables? So like the peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
So I saw one today from a brewery in New York. The name's escaping me at the moment, but it was an Uncrustable label, and the beer is basically like a grape jelly sour with peanut butter in it. And they, so like it sounds great, but yeah, I bet it is good, but the label is literally just like an Uncrustable, and I think like that's the name.
Very innovative.
Yeah, yeah. So you see a lot, especially like with the cereal ones, because it's pretty easy. But yeah, so I don't know. The label thing bothers me because it's bad. A lot of times, bad breweries that use something like that just to get people to buy it, and they don't focus on the quality.
Yeah, Kim had one a few weeks back. He was about to say something anyway, but
Fab art.
Yeah,
Fab art. That's what they do. It's almost as if, and I think I said this on that episode that we did. The beer was second to the art that they were trying to find to put on their labels, and they're pretty upfront about that. I mean, the beer was pretty good. It was also there's a lot of political stuff involved with that company too. But they're trying to make art on cans. I mean, that's their whole thing, and to a point, I think it's kind of cool. But if you're making that, the point of emphasis and not the beer, it's kind of like, what the fuck are you doing this for? Like, But there's one thing I wanted to show you guys. I remember this from a couple years ago, and not a year, I think a year ago. You guys remember the whole thing in Connecticut with Omnipolo and Yellow Belly? Do you guys all hear about that?
Yeah, they got rid of the KKK thing.
Can you see it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's like the mistakes that people make, like when they're trying to do things.
Yep.
Yeah, and that beer was actually being satire with the White Hoods. Like they were trying to say like fuck them because it was called Yellow Belly and stuff like that, but it got taken down.
Anti-racist beer, but they got
because because of the bottle. Yeah, that's so really. Of course.
I would say that it's been interesting over the years seeing this. There used to be a great Instagram page called Intellectual Poopery, and there was a guy. It was all beer labels, and like he would just post all these labels of just complete like stealing other people's intellectual property, and most of these just get away with it. That account now all of a sudden it's dead. I was looking for it again today, and I think. Goodwill Hunting was that's a blog that I think they did something about that, or Beervana talked about them a couple of years ago. So I have a buddy who is a IP lawyer, and I asked him about it. He's like, there's just no money in trying to go after any of these breweries, which I don't. These breweries aren't probably making a ton of money off of the labels, anyways, but he says there's not much any money in it, but it just I just look at it and it's like you're literally stealing other people's ideas, and how is that? Like, you need to do that? Can't you make your own label? I mean, there are great breweries who are doing this as well, and I'm not going to name any breweries, but it seems odd to me.
Parody law protects you from a lot of things. So if you're saying it's a parody of something, it protects you from a lot of litigation when it comes to that.
So we're all safe then, right? Because Kim Jong-un will come after you. So we're all good. Shane can't come after you. Okay, perfect.
All right, guys. We're getting.
My take
No,
on
go ahead. Go ahead.
labels real quick. I think a lot of brewers just don't care, because if they do it and somebody calls them out on it, all they do is send a cease and desist, and then that brewery then posts that cease and desist letter on Facebook and say, "Hey, look, these big guys came after us."
Right.
And then we get a bunch of clicks and comments and shares. So all they do is get attention. So I actually know of a brewery, I won't name their name, that kind of encourages cease and desist. They don't like actively go out and say, "Okay, well, it's January, we got to get another C&D." But they put out labels and they're like, if they send us a cease and desist, it only does us a favor, because they're never going to come after us for money wise or whatever.
No money.
They just say, "Hey, what do you have left for labels?" "Oh, we have 100 labels left." "Okay, we'll just use the rest of those, and if you brew that beer again, just change the name or change the label." And the brewery says, "Okay, well, guess what? We got all our energy out of it that we needed." But with those C&Ds, they get a lot of clicks, a lot of shares, and a lot of likes on Facebook. So a lot of breweries are just like, screw it. There's a Desk, you might know, there's a brewery in Maine that did this. They had like Gronk spiking on the label.
Yeah.
I don't know who that was, but that was it was literally almost a picture of Gronk.
It still is. Yeah. I sent that, I think, to that Twitter account. Instagram account. It's real.
It's just people are just riding on coattails and trying to get attention, and it's just a sensational thing, because usually the beer doesn't follow how funny the label is. So
right.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, so guys, we're coming up close to the end. I want to bring up some KMS stuff. I always like to. So we just had a week of Corano.
Yeah.
Good or bad? I mean, there was some good stuff. There was some bad stuff. Chris, made an ass out of himself, but not really. Looked like an ass. I mean, I watch everything. I look at everything, including Kirk, and including every sub, whatever. But Kim, what did you think about Corano this week?
The week wasn't bad. I mean, I don't like Corano. I mean, I used to be a Corano fan, but him, angling to get his hands onto the YouTube. I mean, he's so thin-skinned. Like he pretends to be something he isn't, and that's what drives me nuts. He's a fraud. He claims to be this big libertarian. Claims to work hard. He was bitching about,
He claims to work hard. I like that.
No, this is a direct quote. "The job is killing me. I had 5 hours of meetings all day. I worked fucking 8 hours minimum. Like, I don't get him. I know a lot of people like him. I liked him in the past too, but he's just so thin-skinned, and he wants the YouTube because he wants to push everybody off YouTube that he doesn't like. And one thing that really pissed me off was John from Scranton, who is the best Minifan, I think, in the history of Minifans. He will help anybody out with anything. He's helped out with this show when I couldn't figure out two things. I love John from Scranton.
I like JFS, but I like him to say that. I mean, that's pretty.
John will help anybody. I don't think anyone has a bad relationship with him. Corano going after him is just pathetic. But Corano,
that was shit. Yeah,
he wants to push out anybody that's ever given him crap in the past, and he's just pushing his own brand. I'm convinced that he doesn't listen to the show. I've always said this. I think that he would watch, listen to DC's, wrap-up show, get the points before you go in, and then say to Kirk and hit those things. Because he doesn't know about everything that's going on in this community. He doesn't know about everything that goes on the show. His knowledge is limited. And I agree with Justin. I don't think he listens every day. I really don't. I think he's a fraud that wants to push his own brand.
So Justin also looked like an ass. He talked about, he did the show like in between like both shows, and then the next day he's like, "Oh, I knew it. I knew everything." But whatever. So I went to Kim for a reason, and I feel like Jerry Springer right now. Woo! But so Shane, go ahead. I know you're more of a chronic. I'm sorry to say, but
no, I can't help
out a little.
No, I can't help it. I like the guy. He makes me laugh. Even the stuff where so the whole thing with Carabas when he was like, "Oh, I thought it was 50-50 on Twitter." Like, he's doing that stuff to troll people. Like, his existence is a troll job for Twitter, and I find it funny.
Everybody.
Well, but I thought the episodes this week, whether they were intentionally funny or it just happened to work. I thought this was a great week for the show, especially because it seemed like the show has hit a bit of a rough patch with the election stuff and, Mike being gone. And, so I think it was kind of a breath of fresh air only because it was a different voice other than just Kirk and Steve. And there is that built-in kind of storyline with everybody hating Carano. So I find him entertaining, if nothing else, because it just pisses people off. And that after the show gets posted, Twitter is going to be, a firestorm, and it creates content, again, intentionally or unintentionally. It adds to, just the days. So
sure. I'm going to go to Steve, your live to tape next, because every day I look forward to that tweet. 5 fucking full. And he could not do it this week. So what was your feeling?
There are days where I'm like, fuck, did I miss it? And this week I was like, oh, I totally missed it. And then I look and I go, oh my God, they never went live today. But no, I thought this was a great week because I think, love or hate Carano, he gave a lot of content to the world this week. And this was also the week where I think Kirk knew what was going to happen with Blind Mike in terms of what his future was. So I think Kirk went out and said, okay, let's get Quantum with Chris. Let's see what happens. He went out and said, let's get Tim and Steve. Let's see what happens. And it created like some really, really good shows.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about it. To go, and I think I had an unpopular opinion this week, but to go back to the Carano-Carabas stuff, I like Jared. I like Carano for the most part. I think he is thin-skinned, and there's some issue. There would be issues there if he was full-time. But when it comes to Quantum Week Chris, I think Chris is a really smart guy, and I think he could do really well on the show. But Carabas and Kirk have so much history and so much chemistry together that like automatically they have a better show. So I can see where Carano was coming from in terms of saying like Chris is really talented, and I wouldn't say he's better than Carabas, but I think Chris with time, if he had as much experience as Carabas did, he could have a great show with Kirk too. But Carano going that route was just kind of like, he knew he was going to die at the stake on that one. So
I think if I can just jump in real quick. So I think one of the mistakes that Carano made is rather than like compare talent, I think what he was trying to say is like he finds Chris more interesting as opposed to talent level, because I mean, like I'm not a huge fan of Carabas, but I can recognize that he does have talent. I personally find Chris being on the show more interesting, but I don't think that that he's more talented than Carabas. I just, I guess it's just a personality thing, but I think that's kind of where he went wrong, is he was using talent in place of level of interest, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Desk, what do you think?
Well, I would.
This is the real man. Here we go.
So I think that, is it because it was this was a different week, and just having somebody different in there? I think Carano. I thought this was great. I really like this week. I do think Carabas is a lot better than Chris, but I understand just what Shank is talking about right there. I completely understand that, and I agree with that. The thing with Carano is I'm blocked. I'm blocked because
no, you're not. Are you really blocked?
Why does he block a desk?
You're blocked from desk? Because you're friends with Sneakers?
Well, am I friends with Sneakers followed me a long time ago. I followed him. I followed everyone, and so like I just follow him. Like I'm not going to unfollow somebody because so that kind of pissed me off. And I sat right next to Carano in Madawaska. I have the mudslide picture and so we had Twitter comments back and forth before. I thought everything was really good, and like the last one was like when he was talking about how he was goth, and I put in my black Kirk's desk picture, and he favored it, and then I got blocked, and it was just like So I make comments about him all the time, but it's just for fun because I'm not out there to be an asshole at all in this. I mean, I'm all about this for enjoyment. Yep. And I does he annoy the hell out of me? Yes. But does he make great content? Yes. And I hate to have to say that, because it just drives me crazy. But I do like him, and I'm sitting here saying, please, Steve Carano, or not Steve Carano. Please, Carano, stop! Don't block me anymore. You know, as
the KMS brews, I don't know, the Paragon, whatever, the whatever it is. Anyone to block Kirk's desk, that is fucked up. Come on, man. He's got. Give me a fucking break. I mean, I enjoyed the shows this week. His bullshit thing about Carabas not being as talented as Quantum Meat Chris. I mean, Quantum Meat Chris brought it up and said he's an asshole for saying that. I mean, Carabas, obviously he's had podcasts. He's, hundreds of thousands of followers, whatever it is. I mean, for him to say that was definitely him just trying to be funny, but he just didn't play it well. But I really enjoyed this week. Kirk was a genius. I mean, bringing everybody in, it was so good. I mean, the mechanic episode was fucking unbelievable.
Awesome.
Best ever, I think.
Awesome.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
Tim,
I mean, both
they killed it. Tim and they killed it. Those guys killed it.
Yeah, both of those guys just sitting there. They were just so like nonchalant. And then to have like Steve say, "Yeah, fucking call my mom's place, whatever," and it was funny and like it was so good.
12 years. What the hell?
12 years. It was so good. It was so good. So Kirk knew that the entire week could not be just him and Carano. It just would be.
Yeah, he knew he wasn't good enough to be just the two of them together.
Yeah, you can't do it.
And Carano thinks he is, that he could do that, but he can't. And it's not a negative thing about Carano. But he needed other people in there.
No, it's not negative. I listen to Quantum Week every week, but it's just not. I'm not paying $50.
He's a very
Thanks to
confident guy. What's that?
Shake and Steve Live Tape are both $50 members.
I think they are.
I look into the $100 range,
and they're both microdosing LSD like Matt Carano.
He's a very confident guy, and sometimes that comes across as just overconfident and egotistical. And yeah, totally. And I think there were a couple times, whether it was on Twitter or on the show, I can't remember, where he was just like, "Yeah, I'm an asshole." Like, I think sometimes he's able to understand how it comes across, but yeah, he's just a very confident guy, which, So we're gonna end on this.
He can't keep a fucking job. He's always unemployed. There's a reason for that. And I was trying to get his greasy little fingers into the fucking show.
Wait, I'm gonna slam my desk.
God.
Ow.
Take job. He's trying to weasel his way into this one.
All right, Kim. So I was gonna let Kim have the last word, but I think he just did. We'll have a little after. We're already at almost 43 minutes, so we're gonna say later. KMS Brews, guys. Thank you so much, Steve. You're live to tape. Nice to have you first time. Cheers.
Yeah. Oh, hey. There you go.